If you are watching this channel for the first time, please we advise you click on the share button, click on the red subscribe button, and on the notification button, so that when we have a new episode coming out, directly it will be shared to you. You will have the link and be notified of this edition because they keep on coming and it will interest you, it will move you to another level. Welcome, viewers and listeners, ladies and gentlemen, to the Daily Positive Living Principle channel with Dr. Daniel Otto. We are still on to another interesting episode on today. We have started a discussion on our two previous episodes on strategies on how to implement our love languages that maintains our connection and connectivity in our marriage and relationship, which is very key. When we say that marriage is the source and the origin of all connection in the world, what do we mean? Do you know that after God destroyed the first world, in fact, after God created Adam from the raw material, God has stopped creating people in such way from crude raw material. Even Eve was made from Adam, was created from Adam. After that one, and God destroyed the first world, only 8 people were saved in the ark of Noah. To tell you that from those 8 people, we now grew up to the 7 billion people of today. How did they come to be? It is through union of sexual intercourse in marriage that produced the 7 billion. That's to tell you that the people that started, only 8 people. By numerology, 8 is the number of new beginning. That's why they say 8 is the number of new beginning. Because in this world we are started with only 8 people. And all 8 people have now generated onto 7 billion people, which we are in the world today. And this is by union, by marriage. That's why we say marriage is the source and the origin of all connection. And that is why we should take marriage very seriously. In this episode, we'll be talking about other strategies that makes our love languages for us to implement them well. One of those ones we are going to consider in this episode is practice and consistency. It's one of the strategies. You know, God is a God of consistency, and God wants to use marriage as a test of consistency for human beings, for us as humans. Do you know that since God created the world, there are over 2 to 3 billion galaxies, the stars, the moon, and the rest. Since God created this, everything has been on a standstill. God has never changed. God is a constant. And so he expects his children to also be constant and be consistent in all our dealings. That was why, as complex as human beings is, he gave us marriage as one of the things that should, as an institution. He gave us marriage as an institution because he wants us to be consistent, so that we will not be putting things and jamming things together. Why are we talking about this? Many people say that how can a man be put in a condition where he will be staying with only one woman? But that is human prescription. Others say that human beings or men are hunters. That how can a man be eating one thing all the days of his life? How can a man stick to one woman all the days of his life? That is human prescription. Others say that if you eat rice, you have to eat pounded yam. If you eat pounded yam, you need to eat beans and eat okra and eat egusi and eat all that. That you have to change things. That is human prescription. For God's own prescription, for his test of consistency, you want to see who among the men will be able to stick to one wife and stick to one person. And if you say this is the person that is your own, the person that you are going to marry, or the person that you have paid bride price for, or the person you have wedded, you'll be able to stay with the person and not get separated and not get into conflict until death do you part. That is the oath that we take. And God wants to see that test of consistency. If you fail that test, it means you have failed God's test. That's what we're talking about. So what are we talking? We need to be consistent in our dealings. If you are not consistent, things will begin to happen. Emotional affairs, infidelities will begin to happen. And so practice, if you begin to practice it over and over, It becomes our habit. It becomes our behavior. So we need to practice consistency so we can stay together in love and unity. That is why we're talking about this strategy. What is the next strategy we are talking about? We are talking about openness and transparency. Openness and transparency. Before that, we need to talk about prioritization. So let's talk about prioritization, then we'll now come to openness. Prioritization, what do we mean by prioritization as a strategy? Every day of our life, there are so many things that compete with us on a daily basis. So many issues competing with our existence, competing with our attention, seeking our attention. Physical things, spiritual things, children's fees, food and drink, pursuing money, pursuing contract, material things, you want to do this one. So on a daily basis, things are competing for our attention. If there is no prioritization is a way of measuring the relative importance and the urgency of what you want to do. So you need to sit down to be able to rank all your variables. Which one comes first? Which one demands urgency for now? So you now determine what you want to do based on the magnitude, based on the urgency, based on the importance of that thing. So you begin to rank them in order of priority. So for marriage, it should be given the highest priority. If you want to pursue everything at the same time, you may not even get it done at all. And that is why anyone that wants to move up must know prioritization in total, so that the first things first and the second things second. So you can sit down and rank them, give them numbers. And by the time you score them, you know which one comes on the top ladder, on the top score. So we can implement them according to prioritization. So that is what we're talking about, prioritization. Next one we want to talk about in this episode is openness and transparency. Bible says they were naked, but they were not ashamed. In marriage, there is nothing to hide. In marriage, there should be nothing in our cupboard. If you begin to hide anything in your cupboard, it means that marriage will soon be fragmented. When there is any ulterior motive, something to hide from, even your prayers will not be answered. That's what the Bible says. And so many failures or the 419 and things that are happening in marriage is because either the wife or the husband, they are not sincere to each other. But we need to be open if we need to live well and make our marriages to work. In this openness and transparency is one of the key things that is killing marriage, because there are so many things people hide so many things from each other. Some people go and do this before you know it, commit evil before you know it, you clean his mouth. Others will go and commit adultery in the backyard before they know it, they come to the house and clean up their body. So there is no openness, there is no transparency. Even people with their phones, they cannot be sincere with their phones. Everything should be laid bare before the two people. Here what happens with a man. A man who doesn't want the wife to touch his phone because of so many things that he's hiding. One day, he mistakenly forgot his phone in the parlor, and he went to bath. What happened? As he was bathing with soap all over his eyes and body, he heard his phone ringing in the parlor. Brothers and sisters, what? This man took 100 meters hurdle from the bathroom with soap all over to land in the parlor. Before you know it, the man fell down, broke his knee, and broke his hand. And the wife went to one corner and started laughing. Good for you, because he didn't want the wife to touch the phone. That is what lack of openness and transparency can cause in the house. It will lead to distrust. Couples and the partners will no longer trust themselves because they think that you have something to hide, and everybody will be acting. In marriage, one will become an actor, another will become a boss. It will lead to such extent. As I begin to conclude on this episode, I'd like to give you a real life story that happened during the lockdown. The two people, the husband and the wife, were living in a flat, and they were doing so well. The work was going, husband's job was ongoing, and they were living in this flat very, very well. Things are moving. Suddenly, the wife now told the husband, we need to move to a higher apartment since things are moving well. Okay, the husband agreed because he thought that all of them were together. So they moved to a higher apartment, and they started staying in the higher apartment with higher rent that they needed to pay. So the husband was struggling to pay, and suddenly the man lost his job. Guess what happened? As the man lost his job, they could not pay their rent anymore, and then caretakers started coming to disturb them on a daily basis. They will come and harass the man. You will tell the wife, what are we going to do? The wife will tell the man to go and do something, go and do what to be able to pay their rent. So it continued for a while that the man could no longer sustain and could no longer pay for this rent. So the caretakers now came to be able to eject them out of these premises. So they were roughing the man, they were throwing the man's things outside. So one of the caretakers now, as he was talking, now called Madam. He said, Madam, is this man your rich husband? Why are you treating him like this? The moment the man said, this caretaker said that word, the man heard. And they asked the caretaker, why did you tell my wife such thing? The caretaker has to come out and now tell the husband that this house belongs to your wife. That why is he doing you like this? That was when the man now began to think twice, called the wife, and at last it was known that it was the woman that built that house. So the husband was paying rent to the woman, and the woman did not tell the husband. He has hidden everything, and see how God caught the woman. God exposed her nakedness. When the man knew, what do you think? That was the end of discussion. The man said, how can a woman like this hide such a big thing from him? That was the end of marriage. Marriage went into cataclysm and catastrophe. What are we talking about? We need to be open if we want our marriages to work. Please follow me gently, because there are so many things to learn in this channel. Please subscribe to it, share to others, and follow me gently, and stay tuned for the next episode. God bless you, and thank you for listening to me.